We've got a new coach over in the Wasserman Center who's the first-time head coach. What would be your advice for a first-time head coach at UCLA?
Well, Coach Foster and I texted yesterday. My first advice would be don't respond to text messages. It takes too much of your time. I remember when I took this job, and I wasn't a first-time head coach, it was like almost 1,000. That would be my comical first piece. You can't imagine that's, you got to focus on what you need to get done. People just got to understand, that can't get back to everybody, to every congratulatory text, need to, but he doesn't need my advice. He's been around, guy's been coaching football a long time. So I'm sure I'll see him today, hopefully at some point, and make sure he knows that I'm here for him if I can help him in any way. I don't have anybody tough enough to play for him. Maybe Brandon Williams, but he's probably too tall. If he went over the middle, he might get killed. So, yeah, I don't have anybody to play. He's probably got a few could play for me, though.
Did you text or call?
Text. Yeah.
Can you pull together on NIL, or does it have to be football and basketball?
Yeah, I'm worried about Colorado, man.
Okay. Sure.
You start asking about NIL stuff, it's like,
Okay.
to try to ruin my day.
Colorado, they are having a very good season, but the one thing that stands out to me, 1-6 on the road. What do you see there? I mean, obviously it's hard to win on the road, but
It's hard, man. It's just hard. I mean, look at Kansas last night. I mean, it's just tough. The road is unkind. But there can be factors that go into that people don't know. Like you can't look at a statistic, and this could be any analytic statistic. I remember talking to Coach Larry Brown one time about when he was coaching in the NBA, and an owner tried to tell him that Serge Ibaka shot it better from 17 feet than Kevin Durant. No, that's
Yeah.
And he had to explain to the guy that that's because Serge Ibaka is wide open because they're double teaming Kevin Durant. They were both on OKC. So you can't just look at everything, from 20,000 feet. So you don't know if they've had injuries in those games. Who's playing well? Yeah, I don't know what that is either. Another fact is there's so many factors when you play. Okay, you play UCLA now versus you play UCLA in December, right? So you know who they played and when they played them. Was that team playing really well? Like we beat Arizona State, they were on a roll. They were tied for first. They were undefeated at home. It was an unbelievable win for us at that time. So you just never know with stuff like that. I look, they got a good team. They're a veteran team. KJ's had an unbelievable year. De Silva's been a great player in this league for a long time. Tad knows what he's doing. So that's how I look at it.
With everything you said, does that change the scout on it at all? Do you look more at away games?
No, we look at who you are now.
Who you are now. Okay.
Yeah, who you are now.
So the most recent games.
Yeah. And then obviously you're looking at, past matchups with coaches, what they did against what you do. You're always looking at last year, even though the players were different, just from a strategical standpoint,
right?
That there's certain things that you do the same, although your players are different. What did they do to combat that? Right. But when you start looking at who a team is, like Alex knows, I always have him give me our last five stats filtered. Our opponent's last 5 and last 10. So, I think that's way more relevant than who's. I guarantee you teams with us, they're telling their team, here's who they are now. Versus maybe who you watch play in December on the televised game.
How tough are they with that matchup with De Silva and Williams, both 6'8"-ish, kind of small forward types?
I just think they're very different players. Cody likes to drive the ball. He played a lot of point guard in high school and AAU, as you and I sat there and watched. And Tristan's more of a jump shooter. I mean, he'll go down in the low post. They'll try to exploit some switches in the low post with So there's very, very different guys. I think when you start talking about size and concerns, for me, I look to rebounding. I always, look to rebounding. Being a young team, something I think that we have to always be cognizant of is the physical battle and how hard it is to get a rebound in a conference game, and that's why we won the Cal game. It surely wasn't our great shooting in the second half. So yeah, their size concerns me on the backboard. Not their center size. Like you're saying, their totality. Because Hadley does a lot of paint, tough work too, and O'Brien's a tough guy crashing. So there's a lot of times they got four really good rebounders on the court at the same time.
First year here, obviously, you went from sub 500 to firmly on the bubble before the season was shut down. Do you feel like this team is capable of doing that same thing?
Yeah, I was wondering when that question was going to come. It's the last thing on my mind. It's all like, it just doesn't matter. If we get to the point where that's, I'll be proud of our guys if we can get to the point where that's a real conversation. I know it's not a real conversation right now. Right now, we need to get better. I just keep trying to tell these guys every day that the magic potion in life, not just for their career, for everybody, is that a lot of people get up and go through the motions. Few people get up and try to get stuff done and be productive every day. And that's the key to success. And I think with these guys, what happens in basketball, practice gets late. You get to this time of the year and guys just try to get through practice and get to the games. And to me, that's the worst thing you can do. You got to try to become a better player. We try to sell them on that every day with the work we spend with them individually, with film study, with shooting, with one-on-one moves, and the stuff we do as a team. We got to get better.
Coach, I was wondering if there's a detail you can pinpoint from that Cal game that helped you win that you want to take with you into these next two games at home.
Yeah, we had some great defensive rotations from Sebastian Mack behind our pick and roll coverage. He did some great off the ball defensive things in first half with his hands, second half with his defensive rotations. A couple of them behind our pick and roll. Him and Dylan are getting better at that. With Sebastian's high school coach just told him shoot every time because that's what he did when he played, Jeff Kaufman. So
are you still trying to get recruits from Mr. Kaufman?
Mr. Kaufman texts me constantly to quit worrying about weak side defense and focus on scores. Because he texted me last night that he has the leading scorer at Texas Tech, UCLA, and there's one other one. Yeah, he texted me last night. He's got three guys are leading scorers at different schools. Oh, Arizona State. Yeah, because he let it fly as a player, and that's what he teaches his guys. So. Yes, Mr. Kaufman and I are very close friends.
2 second-half turnovers, and I think one was a shot clock violation. How critical has turnover reduction been in this stretch, and what's gone into that?
Experience. You grow, your toughness level grows, I think, as you get some experience. I think that your heart rate slows as you get some experience with the ball. And it just teaches you, what you can and can't do. That driving tight gaps or playing too fast or throwing passes that we try to say throw 100% passes and take 50% shots. You can't be risky with any pass. So I just think it takes time. It's just, hey, look, man, coaching would be easy if you could, everybody wants to play great D, have high execution on offense, never turn the ball over and rebound. everybody says the same thing, right? We all go and tell our team. So it just it takes some time to get some guys to become who they can become, and your team to get to what they need to get to. But I would totally agree with you. And I think, you've been covering me for a while now. So especially on the road, you gotta take care of the ball. It's number one on the board, not defense, because it sets up your defense. So, now you gotta do is, it's football too. I fell asleep Sunday, but turnovers, they just kill you.
You mentioned earlier, keeping that focus on getting better.
Yeah.
How much easier is that to do with a young team, especially coming off a close encounter like you had at Cal, and just maybe keeping them grounded as the winds pile up?
Yeah, well, look, again, that's your job. Your job's to keep guys focused on what they need to be focused on. Darren and I have been together a super long time. And so it's hard for me to recall when we started saying that our saying the mental state is everything. For everybody in life, not, the worst mental state you can have as a player, as a coach is, I'm a victim. I'm a victim of, we don't have this in our, at UCLA. I'm a victim of the coach doesn't let me do this, let me do that. Instead of the mirror, you need to have the mirror. So you can look in the mirror and tell yourself, figure out a way to get it done. So none of these guys are where they want to be. They're real simple. I remind them all the time, nobody's where they want to be as a player. And the greatest players and most successful people, they know that. So they're driven every day. And your goal as a coach is, by the time a guy gets out of your program, he can do it on his own. Because you're not there to remind him every day, that, hey, you got to get better. Hey, nobody's going to be there after you, like Tiger Campbell. It's like I told him, I'm not going to be in France when you wake up saying, hey, you got to be focused today. You got to get them to a point where they understand that they're going to control their own destiny with their mental state. But their mental state's the key. But it's all, it goes back to each man's passion is his own. If you're content to be average, then there's nothing I'm gonna be able to do for you. But here, when you start talking about our team, we got a long way to go. So any success to me is irrelevant. We got a long way to go.
Is Adai Mara's hard to slow down a little?
With Adai is just so young, Trace. What I've learned with him is you realize that he didn't play other than the national team stuff, at his age level. Even when they're 17 and under, when they went to the finals against he didn't start. The guy that's a lottery pick that's in the G League from Spain, the guy came off the bench. So as much as he's a tremendous prospect, but when you're on an ACB team and you're 17 years old, you have no chance to play. If you play, any minutes he got were irrelevant minutes. So like he just was, and they don't practice because his team's playing in 3 different leagues. Like so I realized like how much he needs practice and how much he needs reps and he needs experience. So, I just say who he's going to be in 3 years from now.
How key will it be to have all those international guys here for the entire summer?
Huge but for high school guys as well. Just it's so different than what they're used to. Like I kid around with my buddy Jeff Kaufman. He said, high school guys, you gotta understand you're sharing practice time with the volleyball team and the JV team and the girls team. You only get to gym so much. There's a million rules that they deal with. They can't coach this game. It's crazy stuff. So these kids get to this level, and it's like scouting reports, class, practice, accountability. Like their head's going to explode. It's the adjustment is unbelievable at every level, mentally, physically, the whole 9 yards. Aside from now, you're living on your own, away from your parents for the first time and dealing with, can I make those good decisions at night? It's such a big adjustment, you know. So I wouldn't say there would be any more for the international guys than the high school. I just think it's so underrated because some guys are so talented that they make people forget. Lonzo Ball, Kevin Love, Zion Williamson. But that's one guy out of 5,000 that come in every year. It's one guy, you know. But that's what, you know, but that's the guy the media, you know, that the ESPN puts on every highlight. The rest of the freshmen don't exist, as you know. You know, the difference is they don't have that expectation really in football. I think it's gotten worse, but it used to be you just got redshirted, right? Back when you started you guys' business, right?
Yeah.
Pretty much 9 out of 8 or 9 out of 10 guys, especially if you're a lineman, right?
Yeah.
Now, you know, I think it's changed a little for them, but because they can't go pro till year 3, there's not. It's just the expectation on freshmen in college basketball at high major, you know, programs is just ridiculous, and that's just a byproduct of the media coverage that is, you know, a byproduct of being 2024. It's, you know, social media. It's way over. It's overexposure would be the understatement of the world for media coverage on young basketball players, which leads to completely unrealistic expectations that make it really hard on young basketball players.
One more. I know you might say you care more about traffic on the 405 than this, but you have been
Really, it's Sepulveda corridor in the mornings is my traffic concern, but
okay. You have been to 12 consecutive in-state tournaments.
Yeah.
Has that become a point of pride? Do you ever?
it's been for a long time for me, you know, for a long time. But, you know, right, like I said to you, I try to be authentic, and I, you know, as much as I do care, I care more about, I got to a point in my career contractually and everything that I care about. I got to continue to make it about my players, not me. Now they care about that. But you got, you know, I just think if we keep the focus, is the key is on getting better. Keep the focus that we have a good practice today, and that all of our players become a better shooter today. Because when you practice, you're either getting better or worse. Because if you handle the ball with your head down, you're reinforcing and getting better at handling the ball with your head down, so you can't see open people. It's just an example, you know. So like when people say you're either getting better or you're getting worse. That's why. You know, you'd be better off just go play some soccer and get some conditioning than reinforcing a bad habit. So I just try to keep the focus on that, on the things we need to do to improve. So, and then hopefully that'll take care of itself. You know, obviously we're not out of opportunity, but I've been fortunate with that, and certainly a point of pride. No question. All right, guys.
Thank you.